Myra Jolivet created Emmy Award-winning special reports and told stories of true crime during her years in television news. But traditional mysteries motivated her to write the Sarah Doucette Jean-Louis series. Like Myra, Sarah is a San Francisco Bay Area native with mystical Louisiana Creole roots. She leans into Louisiana spiritualism to help her solve crimes. Sarah's story is in the UC Berkeley Bancroft Library and the District of Columbia Public Library. And Myra is currently working on a new Creole sleuth and the beginning of a new series. How you doing there, Rick?
I was getting the book giveaway thing. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. We'll get to that soon. And then
Yes.
Rick's going to spotlight Myra and Lisa. Okay, so now for Lisa. Lisa Jones Gentry, the author of NAACP, Image awarded. Is that right?
Award winning.
Image Award nominated.
Nominated. A
Yes.
Dead Man Speaks. A paranormal murder mystery where Ms. Gentry weaves in themes of forgiveness and release through the supernatural as a metaphor for the human condition. She is completing the next book in the Clive January murder mystery series, Dead Men Never Lie, where some of the same themes of love, redemption, and forgiveness are intertwined. Miss Gentry's current book, Forbidden Love, a true story of star-crossed lovers, is being made into a film based on her screenplay. That's very exciting. So, welcome, Lisa, and take it away, Myra.
All right, let's
Thank
meet
you.
Lisa. And I mean, you have amazing accomplishments, screenwriting, books, television, you name it. How did you land in mysteries? What was the point when you said, I'm going to write mysteries?
Well, I'm a lawyer by training, actually, and so I like things that get plotted out. And I started writing as a screenwriter. And the first things that we wrote, I had a writing partner at that time, were murder mysteries. And so I really liked murder mysteries. I loved reading murder mysteries as a child. I literally had every single Nancy Drew. My mother used to read Agatha Christie. So I grew up in that world. And when I decided to write my first novel, I knew I wanted it to be a murder mystery, but I wanted it to be something other than a high body count. So that's why I wanted to weave in sort of some of these other metaphysical themes.
That's awesome. Um, well, I was going to ask you, what was it like to write with a partner? Some people have done that and some
Mhm.
haven't. Was that easy to navigate or is it challenging? I'm just curious.
Well, I think it's probably more challenging to do it as a novel. There are a lot of writing teams as screenwriters. And so I wrote I was part of a screenwriting team initially, although subsequently I wrote screenplays on my own. But I think because of just the structure of a screenplay, the massiveness of it in terms of what has to be done by certain points, it lends itself to co-writing. I
Mm,
don't know that novel writing really is as conducive to co-writing
mm,
because I think it's much more interior than
yeah.
screenwriting. Screenwriting by its nature is very visual, whereas
Mm,
novel writing is very interior to the writer. So I
interesting.
think it would be, for me, I think it would be difficult to write a novel with someone. But a screenplay, like I said, there's lots and lots of screenwriting partners. It's not unusual at all.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So where do your characters come from? I mean, I know some people say, "Hey, I look at the airport and I see people and think, ah, you look like a murderer." So where do you
Yeah,
get your
someone I think I
character?
don't want to share a meal with. Yeah, because I
Right?
might be on the menu depending upon just how sick you are, right?
Right.
Exactly.
So
So my
do they
characters
just
come
come
from
to you, or are they composites of people you know? Where do you get your characters?
well, I would say that some of them are inspired by people that I knew. I wouldn't say they're all composites, but I would say that they are inspired by archetypes of people that I know. So,
Mhm.
for instance, early on in my career, I worked on Wall Street. And so there are certain archetypical characters on
Mhm.
Wall Street. And so some of those archetypes I drew, I can't say it's any particular individual, but it's sort of like this kind of person works in this kind of industry and has this kind of perspective. And so that's where I draw a lot of the characters are, but really from the environment that they come from.
That totally makes sense. And
Yeah.
you said something earlier where we can probably figure out the answer, but we love to know pantser, plotter, and
Oh, I am very
or
much a
little of
plotter.
both.
I
You
am I am a plotter.
yeah.
I'm a pantser in the sense that the whole story comes to me immediately.
Oh,
So the literally beginning, middle, end of the story, it all comes. Like this particular story, I had always wanted to write a novel. I'd been writing screenplays, and I had read a quote actually by a detective who was in LA in the 1920s, and they were doing an article about him in the LA Times. I was living in LA at the time, and his name was Jigsaw John St. John. And he was one of the detectives on the Black Dahlia murders, which were these very famous murders in the 1920s that were ultimately never solved. And so he had this quote, and it said, "Anytime that crimes aren't solved, the lives of the victims are restless. They remain with us. They haunt us." And so I thought, what would it be like if someone was killed, but they didn't know why or who did it? How would they find out? And then the whole story came to me.
yeah.
Literally, all the beats of the story came. And then, I proceeded at that point to plot it out. But the whole thing, beginning, middle, end, came almost immediately.
Wow. And then
Yeah.
do you plot extensively, or do you have a particular um, system or outline that you use, or is it different for every book?
No, I usually plot pretty extensively. So the way I usually do, like I said, I have the whole story comes to me at one time. It just like beginning, middle, end.
Okay.
And then I start, because I was a screenwriter, I do it almost like in acts. And I do kind of the main beats of the story, kind of the first part, second part, third part. I write pretty detailed character descriptions for myself, backstories, motivations, all the things that you have in a character. And then I plot out every chapter. So every single chapter is like a little 2 or 3 sentences. And so
Oh,
when I start writing, it changes sometimes, when you start writing something, it will go in a different direction. But basically, I know what happens in every single chapter so I can see the way the whole book looks.
oh, got it. So I want to read the description of A Dead Man
Mhm.
Speaks. So let me introduce you guys to the book. A Dead Man Speaks introduces the first in a new paranormal crime mystery series set in 1980s New York on Wall Street. Clive January is a driven, self made black man, a ruthless, wildly successful investment banker who had it all until he is shot and killed from behind by an unknown assailant. As Clive lies in a pool of blood, his life slowly ebbing away, he hears voices. Unearthly beings are tormenting him and telling him that he will burn in hell unless he finds out who killed him. So before it's too late, his ghost must solve the crime of his own murder. And his only choice is to work with a racist cop who is assigned his case, Detective Bob Green. Their relationship begins in hate and distrust, but soon they realize that they actually have more in common than they would have ever imagined. And in the wrenching ending, they discover that truth sets them both free. So it is incredible. I enjoyed this read a lot. Uh,
Thank you.
Now, do you have a favorite paragraph that you'd like to read for us?
I do. There's a lot of paragraphs. I normally read the first part, but I think it's a little bit long. So I'm going to read um, a part. It's about halfway through the book, and I'm just going to set it up for
Mhm.
everybody. So, as Myra said, Clive January, the main character, is shot and killed from behind. He doesn't know who did it. As he lies dying, he hears these voices that say, "You must look back, you must find out who did it." And ultimately, he looks back over his whole life. So, the first part of the book, he's looking back over his whole life, literally from childhood up until the point he dies. The second part of the book, which is where I'm going to read this short excerpt from, is and the book is told entirely in first person. So the first part of the book is told entirely in Clive's first person, And then the second part of the book is told a combination of Clive and Detective Bob and one or two other characters. But in this part of the book, Detective Bob, who is this sort of very cynical, very angry detective who was like big, man on the block, basically, until something happened. And something happened that really derailed his career. And so he's been flailing since, and he's been trying to kind of get it back together. And he really didn't want to take this Clive January case. It's like, I'm ready to retire. I want to get out of here. I'm just like, my life is screwed up and I don't want to have anything to do with this. But he's prevailed upon to do it. And so now, in the section that I'm reading, and the one thing that's important to understand is that Detective Bob is psychic himself. And that's the reason why Clive gravitates toward him, because literally Detective Bob is the only person who can see him and interact with him. Even though he tries to push Clive away, he's not able to. So this is when Detective Bob, the part I'm reading, is when Detective Bob has just started on the case. Now, Clive was very, very wealthy. He had this beautiful home in Manhattan, and then he had this estate in the Hamptons. And so he was killed at his estate in the Hamptons. And so Detective Bob is there now at the crime scene a few days afterwards, and he's just surveying the crime scene. And because he is psychic, he goes into a crime scene a little bit differently. So he goes in trying to feel the presence of the people who were there, including the people that were killed. So he is now in Clive's home where Clive was killed. And this is the part I'm going to read. And again, this is from Detective Bob's perspective, first person. Now this case, Clive January, it could bring me back or push me over the edge. I knew I had to crack this one. I had to get my eyes back. This time, I relaxed right away. Had to be the sound of the waves that did it to me, rocking and gentle. Right away, I felt a power from somewhere flow through me. It wasn't quite me no more. Something was invading my body, taking over my soul, my thoughts, every bit of who I was. Nausea churned my stomach. Shit, I've been doing this for more than 10 years now. I was in control. I knew how to make it work for me. That is until now. Because this was different. Whoever this guy was had this will that was stronger than anything I'd ever felt before. It was pushing me aside and taking over. I wanted to run to the bathroom and puke, but it wouldn't let me. This will, this force that was taking over. I tried to remember what my mother had said years ago. Relax, she said. Relax, Bobby. Let it flow through you, not over you. But I couldn't. I couldn't control it. I was afraid, but there was nothing I could do. I was feeling things that weren't a part of me. They were his feelings, his thoughts, fear, desperation. I was drowning. Literally, I couldn't breathe. I could feel the water filling my lungs. Images were coming at me now. I was him. I was Clive. Nothing like this had ever happened before. I fought to keep myself, but he was taking over. I saw black water, swells of waves. It was dark, and I was going under. I saw a hand being held out to me. I tried to grab it, but I started choking. I woke up. I was sitting on his couch again, looking at the ocean. I touched my brow. It was wet, and my hand was shaking so hard I had to lay it on the table. Drowning? This guy was shot. I felt myself slowly settling back into my body, weak-kneed, stomach still churning. I'd probably sweated off about 5 pounds. Weird as shit. It had never seemed that real before. I knew this case was different, because in spite of what I'd just been through, I felt a little thrill. I was still scared, but I knew I was onto something.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
And I remember that part.
You remember that part?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And the other thing that struck me while I was reading is that I love the way that you gave us Clive in bits and pieces.
Mhm.
We start when he's a little boy, and the pacing is what, because we like to talk a lot about craft in this meeting.
Right.
The way that you did the pacing was so spot on. I don't know if that's from your plotting, or how did you do that? How did you take us from a boy to a man while moving the story, and having that pacing at just the right spot. I never felt like I got too much of one era and not enough of the other.
I think what I was trying to do, and again, going back to my screenwriting roots, when you write a screenplay, you only have a certain number of pages, and it's not that many pages, between 107 to about 115. You can go a little longer, but not too much more. And so literally something has to happen, not just every page, but literally every word has to propel you forward. And so when I was writing this, even though I had a lot more room, and the book is almost 400 pages, I wanted every single page to move you forward. And I wanted every single chapter to have some sort of kind of mini cliffhanger or something that would propel you forward. And when I was thinking about Clive in that journey from childhood to adulthood, I literally was thinking almost in modules. I'm thinking he starts out as a 4-year-old. So I'm thinking, what are the things that a 4-year-old that are going to impact a 4-year-old? And the biggest thing is going to be their relationship to their parents. So what's a snapshot of a 4-year-old? And then that snapshot, immediately what his relationship with his mother, what his relationship with his father, but I was trying to do it in a way so that it left you intrigued. Just, okay, so why is this relationship like this? Because clearly there were some issues there, not with the father, but with the mother. And so every single thing from his teen years, the things that are important to us as teenagers, and then as he moved on, I was trying to just pull out the kernel of what was important during that particular stage of his life and make that the focal point of that particular chapter or chapters.
So then that very organically created the pacing.
Exactly.
Got
Exactly.
it. Got it. So now you took on racism. I mean, and you really took it on because you had racism 50s, 60s, and 70s, and layer on top of that the Deep South.
Yeah.
Were you concerned about doing that?
No, because I mean, in fact, I decided, when I was writing it, did I want to make it contemporary or did I want to make it a little bit more period? And I decided to set it during that time period because I wanted Clive to have been a certain age so that in 1987, when he's killed, he's 39. And I wanted him to have been a child during segregation because I felt like the kind of personality that he had was one that was forged in that kind of situation of great deprivation, of just incredible racism. And someone like him who had this iron will that he was going to succeed, that he was going to get out, that he was going to be rich. And so I wanted to again highlight, the type of racism that has evolved. I mean, there's racism now. Unfortunately, we have a lot that is hearkening back to that time period. Um, but generally speaking, that was sort of really truly in your face. I mean, with the Klan and with Jim Crow and so I wanted that to really be shown and shown at, how that affected someone in a way that propelled them forward. Because I think a lot of the stories that you read about the South at that time, and you read about, African Americans confronting that, you always read the story about, well, they were downtrodden and they were broken by it. But in this case, he was empowered by it. It was that racism that really pushed him to say, you know what, screw you. I am going to be more. I am going to have more. I am not going to be what you think I'm going to be. And so that racism that he experienced as a young child through his teen years is what really propelled him forward. And then the racism that he experienced really in the 70s and the 80s was a different kind of racism. But again, because he had that foundation of, you know what, this is going to make me stronger. This isn't going to break me. This is going to make me stronger. So that when he was an adult as a man and he faced a different kind of more subtle racism, he hit it head on. He's like, nope, you're not going to tell me what to do with my company or my business or my life.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to see that as a positive force in terms of how his character developed.
Yeah, and it makes us think about, well, there are a lot of stories like that, but like you said, they're not necessarily told. I have it in we have it in our families. You know,
Hmm.
people decided, well, okay, well then this is going to make me do more, and then not just in racism, having that living great pain can often propel us, right?
Exactly,
So I think
exactly. What doesn't break you makes you stronger, and that's kind of.
it's a universal application.
Hmm. Hmm.
So now we talked about this, but in preparing for
Uh-huh.
this, as I read the book, it just hit me because I was all geared up. I'm reading a mystery. It's usually a
Yeah.
thriller, da 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 da. And then I came about halfway through. I said, "This is a love story,
Yes.
not romance. This is a
Yeah.
love story of the dimensions, the challenges of love. This is love in its raw everything."
Hmm.
From his relationship with his mom to this to that to he and the detective.
Hmm.
So, and I asked you, did I hit that right? Because
Yes.
it just occurred to me. I said, this is really about love in many ways.
It is. It is. And it's interesting that you picked up on the different dimensions of love because, as they say, love is a many faceted thing. And so you have the love, the fundamental love, the deep love that he has for his father. And his father was a very, very incredible man and a big influence in his life. And then the very conflicted relationship he had with his mother, and then the obsessive love that he had for his lover, and then the almost dutiful love that he had for his wife. And then, like you said, the growing brotherhood type of love that he had for Detective Bob by the end of the story. And so the book is really about the redemptive power of love and forgiveness. And so, because in the end, when he figures out who did it, he realized that he had to love that person as well as forgive them. And so, again, the many facets of love, not necessarily a romantic love or filial love, but a love of one human being, of one soul to another. And
Yeah,
so that's really what it was about.
and we definitely saw his growth
Hmm.
through the process. Now, do you write every day, or do you write when the spirit moves you?
Um, I don't have the luxury of writing every day when I'm on vacation or when I have a little time, I do. But I usually try to write at least every week.
Hmm.
I do write every week. When I'm able to, I write every day. I'll
Mhm.
write early in the morning or I'll write late at night. But I usually try to write regularly. I think the main thing is to be regular
Mm.
and not to have long stretches where you're not writing anything, at least for me.
So we like to get words of wisdom. So, what are some of the lessons when you look at your writing careers? What are some words of wisdom, some a lesson learned that you would share with us?
Well, I would say the biggest lesson is probably not to be afraid to write something, anything, because a lot of people say they've got that great American novel or they've got that, that big idea that they've been trying, their memoir or whatever it is, but then they never actually do it. They talk about it, they ruminate about it, they make excuses as to why they can't do it. And so my thing is, if you want to write something, write one page a day, every single day for a year, a novel that is, and you've got 365 pages. Now, it may not be any good. It's probably not any good because it's just a first draft,
Mhm.
but you've got a first draft.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing I think. I think when I wrote this book, I was it was during a period when I was kind of in between two different jobs. And so I had some time. I was looking for a job and I was like, I can send my resumes out in the morning. And then in the afternoon, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go to the Beverly Hills Library and I'm going to write this book. And so I wrote literally, I told myself I'm writing 10 pages a day. And so I literally wrote 10 pages a day. Now, I rewrote the book over another couple of years, but I wrote the first draft in about 6 months. It was
Wow.
pretty fast. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I feel like it's time to open the floor for questions. I don't want to get in the way. I see stuff
Okay.
in the chat.
I see. Yeah, I see things coming up in the chat.
Yeah,
I got
I
to
know. It's
chat
like,
back
Myra,
here.
get out of the way so we can, so we can have some conversations going here. Rick, are we
Oh,
ready?
okay. Yes.
Rick? Did
Is
Rick
Rick
leave?
gonna? He's gonna ask me the questions.
Yeah, he is. I hope he didn't leave for his birthday. Hey, Rick.
I told you I had a martini. Gosh, I couldn't find the button.
That's all right. We,
Hey,
we
can we mention now, Lisa, about your giveaway? I put
Yes,
I
yes,
put the
yes.
Google the
right.
link in the chat, but maybe you could explain that.
Yes, yes. So this is just for the people who are either on this podcast or listening to it, will be listening to the next couple of days. We meaning myself and obviously through my publisher as well, what we're calling our holiday book buddies giveaway. So all you have to do is take a picture. So you download this link and it will have an image of the book cover. So you just take a picture of it and post it on either Facebook, your Facebook page, or your Instagram page, or if you're on X, on your X page, or your link. And you put the hashtag capital crimes, a dead man speaks. And then we will search for the hashtags and then you have to fill out your email address so we know how to get the book to you. And so then we will then pick a winner. And whoever the winner is, you and your book buddy, whoever you put down as the person you want, will get 2 free ebook copies of A Dead Man Speaks. So you'll be able to read it with one of your friends. That's our little holiday gift. So just have to post it on your Facebook or your Instagram, take a picture of the cover, hashtag capital crimes, a dead man speaks, and then we'll give it a few days, probably a week or something, and then we'll randomly pick one. And if you're the lucky person, you and your secret friend, whoever that is, will both get a free ebook of A Dead Man Speaks. So just for the capital crimes group.
Semi-private book club. I love it.
Yes, yes. And if you like it, we ask you to please give us a good review on
There
Amazon
you go.
and
Excellent.
Goodreads. We like them both.
Well, the first question that came up, Lisa, was have you transferred any of your novels to a screenplay? And if so, how was the actual writing work different between the two modes?
So, good question. The book that I mentioned, Forbidden Love, I wrote the screenplay. It is now in pre-production development as a feature film. It is a very different process writing a screenplay and writing a book, even when you're adapting your own book, because you have to think visually. I mean, you've got a book is going to be between usually 300 and 400 pages. A screenplay, like I said, is maybe 110 pages. And so you've got to figure out what are the visual elements? What's the visual story that you're telling? And so that's what you have to do. You have to figure out how to tell the story visually, and you have to figure out how to make sure that your characters have enough action. And by action, I don't mean jumping out of airplanes, but by action, meaning that wherever they are, whoever the main character or main characters are, they are moving the story forward. So every single scene, they're moving it to that next level. And with A Dead Man Speaks, it's definitely in the process. I've written a lot kind of around it. I'm in the process of sort of tweaking a script that I wrote for that. And the challenging part about this book is that the story is very visual, and it's sort of people read it and they're like, "Oh, this should be a movie," which it should be. But a lot of the cinematic parts of it you have to extract from the flashbacks and the way that the book is put together. So it's a very different process writing a screenplay and writing a book. You can't just kind of, oh, well, this happened in the book, so it has to happen in the screenplay. No. In fact, a lot of things that happen in the book don't happen in the screenplay, and there's some things that happen in the screenplay that don't happen in the book, but that are inspired by the book.
Excellent. Do you storyboard a novel like you do
I don't
a movie?
storyboard it because my handwriting is so horrible. I have to type everything. I literally could not read my handwriting on little tiny cards. But I do plot it out. So I do very, very carefully plot out the whole story, all the beats of the story, and then every single chapter I plot out.
Yeah, excellent. Of course, the question is, have you had any supernatural experiences that
I have
influenced your
had a
writing?
lot of supernatural experiences. First of all, I have a lot of psychic people in my family, which is the reason why writing something that, it has to do with supernatural is a natural thing for me. My grandmother was a quite well-known psychic in California, in Los Angeles. Before she passed, she was on TV, and she wasn't like one of these 1-800s. I mean, she was actually the real deal, legitimate. So I grew up in a household where it was very common to talk about experiences with spirits, to feel that. And I know, Myra, when you were talking about your Creole background, uh,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of that kind of experience as well. And I personally have had a lot of supernatural experiences. Pretty much when I lived in LA, I would say almost every apartment, but not my house, but almost every apartment I lived in LA was haunted, like
Mhm.
literally haunted. And I've had experiences, where probably the most chilling experience I had was it was very, very, it was like at 6 in the morning, it's still dark. It was in the winter. And my apartment was in this old 1920s building, and I never really felt safe there. I always felt like it just wasn't really that safe. And so I'm lying in bed, sort of half asleep, half awake, and then I hear what I think is my front door open and slam open. So I'm absolutely petrified. And so I'm lying in bed, and I'm like, okay, maybe if I pretend I'm asleep, they won't do anything. So I'm lying in bed, my eyes scrunch closed, but I kind of have one a little open, and I hear these footsteps, boom, 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 walking into my bedroom. And then out of the corner of my eye, I notice this kind of shadowy figure, and I'm just petrified. I mean, petrified. Now, I always had a thing about keeping my closet doors closed. So my closet door in my bedroom was closed, and then I see that the shadow figure walked through the closed closet door, and I realized it was a ghost.
There you go.
It was so petrifying. It was. But I've had other experiences with like more pleasant ghosts. I wasn't really scared. It was just sort of like, okay. I think I just saw like a ghost or something. But that was pretty scary. Yeah,
Boy.
that was pretty scary.
So you don't have to make things up. You've lived
No,
them.
I don't. I
I love.
don't. It's very real to me.
Yeah.
Well, this is on the same topic. Have you ever experienced an ESP workshop or any kind of psychic guidance, like past lives regression type?
I have not had past lives regression technically, although like I said, there's a lot of psychic people in my family. So I have had them tell me who I was in other lives. But I wasn't technically regressed, although I have read a lot about it. And I have to say a plug for one of my favorite books. Um, it is called, oh gosh, the author is Michael Newton. He's a psychologist. It's called Journey. Oh God, I'm blanking on the name, but it's about this guy. It's not a novel or anything. It's a psychologist who used to regress his patients back to help them with psychotherapy, and then by accident he regressed one to a past life, and then he started realizing that a lot of the issues that his patients had weren't from this life; they were from past lives.
Mm.
And so he then shifted his practice to exclusively regressing people to past lives to deal with current trauma. So it was really, really a good book. So I've read a lot about it, but I have not personally been regressed.
Michael Newton, you say was the name?
Yes, Michael Newton, Journeys. I don't want, I have it here on my bookshelf, but it's really good though.
Good. Excellent. Excellent.
Okay.
Now, all the writers here want to know, do you have an agent and how you got your book deal?
Yeah, so
And can we piggyback?
yeah. So interestingly enough, I've had a number of book agents, and this book agent that I had actually then is the reason I got this particular deal. So it's a company called Sibylline. It's an independent press, and it started about 2 or 3 years ago. All started by book industry veterans, and it's exclusively for women. They say brilliant women writers, kind of over a certain age, and so not like 20 something. It's got to be a little bit older, um, but yeah, but it's good. It's an indie press, and they've been great, and they've got a lot of really interesting women writers that write everything from memoirs. The main things they focus on are memoirs and mysteries and they have some historical fiction as well. And now I think they're starting a new division that's writing as a craft. So some of the authors are also doing craft writing. I'm not doing one of those, but it's been good. And that's how I got to BoucherCon. They've been going to all the festivals, and yeah. And as I said, everybody involved is a book industry veteran, so this isn't their first rodeo.
Excellent. Let's see. This is a question. I was going to email the giveaway link to all the registered attendees tomorrow morning. Is that okay, Lisa?
Yeah, that's
Oh, that's
fine.
Karen. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's
I'm
fine.
talking on Karen's voice now. Okay. Who is the most interesting person that you were in the past?
Me
Yeah.
personally?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I've heard, you mean in a past life, you mean?
Yeah. I think that's what you mean. Yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
think that's
I don't
overestimated.
know everyone I was, so I couldn't really tell you, but I think one person I was supposed to have been a very wealthy businessman in like the Middle East or something. So, and I don't know, the 1800s or whatever. So I guess that must have been kind of nice, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Because
Um,
you're different. You're men and women in both lives. You're not just a woman or just a man. You switch genders. Yeah.
Forbidden Love. What was that about?
So Forbidden Love is a true story. And it is the story of a guy named Joe Steele who found out in his 30s that he was adopted and that his birth mother was a white nun and his birth father was a black priest. And so,
Love
yes,
it.
and in fact, the adoption records had been sealed by the archdiocese. And so he decided in his 30s to try to find out who his birth parents were. And he found out and then had a very close relationship with his birth mother. He had really wonderful adopted parents who were his parents, effectively. I mean, really, and very happy childhood. So he really didn't want to find out anything, didn't really want to upset the apple cart. But then, when he became an adult, his adopted brother, who was his brother, had found out as a teenager that he was adopted, and so it was a very different experience for him. And he kept encouraging Joe to find out. So he finally did, and he ended up finding his birth mother, who had, of course, was no longer a nun, and she was living in upstate New York, and so they became very close. And literally, on her deathbed, she told him the whole story. Like she had told him bits and pieces from the time that they had met. But when she was literally, kind of her last day, she's like, I really need to tell you everything. And so he had been trying to write the book for a few years. He had like voluminous notes, he had like all this stuff. And but he said, I'm not a memoir writer. That's not what I do. And he had read some of my work and he's like, "Oh, Lisa, can you write? I think if you just write the outline for the book, I think I can write it for me." So I said, "Great." And so he hired me to write the outline for the book. And I had to start a whole new email because he had voluminous notes and he had all this information and everything, pictures and notes and interviews. So he sent me all this stuff. I went through all of it and I wrote this extensive outline. It was about 40 pages. And I literally did what I do, which is I outlined every single chapter. So all he had to do was write it. So I gave it to him. I'm like, here it is. He's like, oh, this looks great. And I'm like, he said, so what do I do? And I'm like, well, here's the first chapter. Here's what happened. So you start writing. And he said, can I just pay you to write the whole book? I'm like, sure. So I ended up writing the book. And then we ended up getting a big article in People magazine, and then there was a lot of interest, and so that's how it happened. But it's a really amazing story. We've got actual pictures, and the interesting thing about that story is that his birth mother was the daughter of Polish immigrants, and she became a nun at 14. And she was in her late 30s when she met his birth father, who himself was a black priest, Catholic priest. But he had been ordained at the Vatican in the early 1930s because he grew up in Cleveland, and his story was interesting. His birth mother was white, and his birth father was a black guy that she was having a relationship with, but they broke up. And so then she ends up marrying this other guy, a white guy, while she was pregnant with the black child, has the child, and then proceeds to have seven more children with her white husband. And so his birth father grew up in Cleveland. Literally, he was born in 1906 in the early 1900s as a Black child raised in a white family in Cleveland in the early 1900s. This is all true. I did not make any of this up. Unlike A Dead Man Speaks, which I made up completely, this is all true. And
I mean,
so he grew up, it was kind of a working class family, very Catholic. He was very smart, and he's like, I don't want that life. I want to be a Catholic priest, because back then, that was a real big deal, particularly for a working class family. So he was very smart. He went to college. He took all the exams to go to the seminary, but not one single Catholic seminary in the entire United States would accept him because he was Black. So this was 1930. So his mother was very close to a priest, and he said, look, I'll write the Vatican. So he wrote the Vatican. And they're like, he passed all the exams? Sure, he can come to Italy. So he came to Rome, and he did his 4 years there, did a seminary, he was ordained, did advanced studies, and then World War II breaks out. So then he was drafted to be a chaplain for the All-Black Buffalo Soldiers Regiment in Italy. And so he was there, he was decorated, he got, I know it was the Purple Heart, but one of the medals of honor he got. And then he ended up being assigned to this tiny little parish in upstate New York as the assistant pastor. And that's where he met Sister Sophie Lagaki, who by then was in her 30s. She had been there since she was 14. She was the youngest nun there. And they ended up having this very torrid relationship. And then she becomes pregnant 2 years later. So they decide to give up the baby for adoption in Cincinnati, which is where Joe Steele was raised. But then after the baby was born and they adopted the baby, and they put the baby up for adoption, they were so much in love. And by that time, he had gotten a promotion. So he was now the head priest. And he was, as the head priest, he was entitled to having a housekeeper. So he asked her if she would stay on as his housekeeper. So basically, they lived together as husband and wife. She was his housekeeper, he was the priest, and they were together until he died in 1964.
wow.
So it's really an amazing story, very heart-wrenching, and it is truly a romance. It is a big-time romance.
That's great. That's excellent. That's
Yeah.
a story. Wow.
Yeah, it's a
I
great
hate to
story.
diagram that family tree. That's got to be.
It is. And like I said, the great thing about that book is he had so many pictures. So there's photographs of his birth parents, of his grandparents, of his adopted parents and his adopted grandparents, and the whole bit. So it's really it's really just a really rich story, and the characters, are very compelling, very compelling.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Don has a question here. Years ago, an ESP workshop convinced her that psychic phenomena was real and that explained many. Have you had any precognitive dreams? Do precognitive?
Yeah, I've had precognitive dreams. I can't think of any I've had recently, but there was a time when I was having a lot of very symbolic dreams and a lot of definitely sort of precognitive dreams. Yeah, for sure I've had those.
They make their way into your novels?
I use a lot of dreams in my novels, not my dreams necessarily, but if you read this book, and Myra can probably tell you, there are a lot of dreams in the book. I do tend to like to have dreams in my books.
Well, that's the last question I have on the log here.
Okay.
Karen?
Rick, do you see the one they're asking about the spelling of the publisher?
Oh, Sibylline?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see that one. I passed that one right by.
Yeah, it's SIB as in boy, ELLYNE, I think. Sibylline. SIBYLLINE.
Okay.
Sibylline Press.
Yeah, I think it's right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sibylline Press.
Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Well, Myra and Karen, I'll let you take over. I will put everyone back on the line here so we can see everybody. Remove the spotlights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Great.
There we go.
So, this has been an amazing experience. Anybody have anything else that they want to say or ask about before we shut it down?
I see a hand over there. Donna.
Lisa, I
Yes.
think you're very brave to write about these topics, because a lot of people are still not convinced that psychic phenomena exist. And I think they tend to look at authors in a strange way, who write about them. I personally believe strongly, because I have experienced those things myself, and I am always inspired by people who are brave enough, like you, who want to share your experiences and your knowledge with the strange things, you know.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I hope that you will get the book and enjoy it, or maybe you'll be one of the winners. Who knows?
It's true.
Anybody else?
Oh, anyone else?
Go ahead, Myra.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, like Lisa was saying, and in many Creole families, it's not that unusual.
Mhm.
People talk about talking to dead relatives who've been dead 10 or 20 years.
You're right.
Normal conversation, with my relatives. They were like, oh, well, I talked to so-and-so yesterday. And that person's been in the cemetery for like a decade. Just so I grew up hearing that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Same here.
It's
Yep.
like, hey,
Let me
like,
ask the spirits. You've heard that one,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Let me ask the spirits. Let's see what the spirits say.
ask the ancestors. Well,
Mhm.
exactly. It's like normal.
Yeah.
You layer Catholicism on top of that. And
Right. Which I am Catholic also.
yeah, I left, but we grew up, everything.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I left too, but I was grown up. I was raised Catholic. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, this has been a really wonderful experience.
Well,
And
thank you. And I appreciate you guys having me. This has really been fun. And maybe I'll run into some of you at BoucherCon or some of the other mystery writer conventions. But
Yes.
thank you so much for being a part of this. I appreciate it. Thank you, Myra. This was really amazing. Your questions were so like probing and interesting, and just I really appreciate it, and appreciate that you read the book and really liked it. So thank you again.
And
Great.
I'll
And
be
Rick,
sure to email all the registered attendees. So if those of you who are here tonight didn't get a chance to click on that link or copy it, you'll be getting an email tomorrow morning.
Oh, great.
right. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. And Rick, happy birthday. I hope that this was it's not too late your time, so you still have a few hours so you can go out and celebrate and have another martini
No,
or,
you're the you're
or
the you're the
tea.
you're the frosting on the cake. Thank you very much.
Oh, well,
Aw,
thank you. That's very
what a
nice of you to say.
charmer.
Thank you. I know, exactly.
And thank you, Myra.
Good
Yes.
job, Myra.
Thank you again,
Thank you,
Myra. This
Lisa.
is
That was
great.
great. Yeah.
all right.
Great.
Okay, have a nice evening, everybody.
All
Thanks for
right, you
coming.
too.
Thanks,
Thanks again for
everybody.
having
Thanks,
me.
Lisa.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye. Bye.